Right, a little warning before we go ahead with this. Doing this job, you know, make sure you have the right tools, make sure you have all the right safety equipment, and be prepared because there may be much swearing, much anger, and you might feel like setting the car, van, or whatever you're working on fire. Don't set it on fire, you'll get there in the end, you'll be fine. Also, if you're going to do this, and you're going to service the back brakes and you know that they haven't been changed for a while, or for example if they look like that and they have cracks on them, that's the old ones that I've changed on this van, get yourself a new set of drum brake shoes and replace them while you're at it. I'm not actually going to show you how to do this in this video today because I've already done it on my van, and quite frankly it can be a bit of a pain in the ass. But if there's enough interest and people want me to do a video of how to change them, then obviously I will, because I'm nice like that. Hello and welcome to my video of how to fix drum brakes on an LDV Maxus, but this can be applied to any drum brakes on any car or van. They're all pretty similar, but I noticed there wasn't many videos for the Maxus, so I thought I'd do some videos. So today we are going to be focusing on this, which is obviously the back wheel, as you can see, the drum brake. And what you'll need for this is you're going to need a good shit smacking hammer, obviously good old ratchet with the necessary sizes. Obviously to get the wheel off on this one it's at 22. If you want to bleed the brakes, you're also going to need a size 8, which is going to be for the bleed nipple. And obviously, as you can see there, a good jack and a my expert safety, because you see it's not exactly hard ground. I've got my professional jack holder, which isn't really professional, it's just the spare wheel holder for the van, but it does the job. So what we're going to want to do first is we're going to want to get your ratchet, and we're going to want to just loosen the wheel off. So what I'll do is I'll put the phone down, right, so we're going to loosen the wheel off now. So say in this van it's the size 22 to loosen the wheel off. Obviously I don't know what size the wheels are on your van, or if it's a Maxus it will be 22. So we just want to loosen them off. There we go. Just a few turns. You don't actually need to undo them because we don't want the wheel falling off, because that would be rather annoying. But no, seriously, just a couple turns. There we go. And they're all loosened off. And the reason why we do this now is because it saves, obviously when the van is jacked up and the handbrake, we're going to have to adjust the handbrake off. It saves, obviously the wheel will spin and you won't be able to undo it when it's tight. Oh, there goes my seat, blowing away. I'll just put that under the hammer. On the ground. So, right, next thing you're going to want to do, you're going to want to go inside. Obviously first put it into gear, yeah, so I put it into first gear, as you can see there, and then you're going to want to take the handbrake off. And obviously before you do this, don't be a dipshit. Obviously if you're working on the van, it's on a hill, either backwards or forwards, you know, you can chop the wheels and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to bother because my van's on levelish ground, so you know, just make sure you're doing it safely and don't blame me if anything goes wrong. So I'm going to take the handbrake off. As you can see, it's in gear, so that will lock the van, obviously with the movement of the engine, and it won't go anywhere. Right. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take off the handbrake adjustment underneath the van, and for that we will need a 13mm spanner, which I appear to have lost. Organisation is the key. So you also need a 13mm spanner as well, which is to the adjustment for the handbrake, which is underneath the van. Right, so now we have followed those steps, and the nuts are loose on the wheel, or the bolts are loose on the wheel, and the handbrake is off and the van is in gear, and obviously you've taken all the correct safety procedures, like chop the wheels if you're on a hill or something. We need to back off the handbrake, and we need to go underneath the middle of the van for this. And as you can see here, underneath the van, there, that is the handbrake adjustment. So what you need to do, if I can get myself underneath, you need a 13, and obviously you can back off the tension nut, which keeps it in place. can remember which way is undo and do up, that would help. So once you have loosened the tensioner nut, then you can carry on and just get that undone. Unfortunately this one is a little stiff, so I'm going to have to unwind it with a bit of force.
Many rolling turns later.
There we go, now it's coming. And now you can go on to the main nut, which is the actual adjustment nut, and you can back this right off. The reason why we're doing this is because the handbrake adjustment needs to be backed right off, so it's not interfering with the adjustment that we are going to adjust on the drum brakes basically. This obviously tightens the handbrake cable up, and if you have a wheel that's binding, what I mean by that, if you have a wheel that's obviously the brake is, even when the handbrake's off, the wheel is the brake is still slightly gripping the wheel, then this could be a real problem. So it's best just to back this right off, and we'll go on from there.
Many more rolling turns later.
There you go, now as you can see I've backed that off, and there is a bit of slack in the cable, so now that shouldn't be binding the wheel. We can check that again when we actually jack the van up and make sure that the wheel spins freely with your hand, obviously, when the handbrake is off, which it is. So let's get on to that. So as you can see, I've jacked the van up. There is some room underneath the wheel, you don't need much. Obviously when jacking, just make sure that you use a jack that can take the super weight of the van, and as you can see I've jacked it on the actual axle here, so just make sure you pick a sensible place, not a place where it's going to crumble the body, somewhere which is strong and secure. As you can see I've jacked my wheel up, sorry my van up, not my wheel, and it's still, the brake is still binding. See, I can turn it, but there's still some resistance there, so I clearly need to go back underneath the van and adjust the handbrake off some more, so I will do that now.
Many more rolling turns later.
Now you can see, now I've unadjusted it, the wheel can be moved by hand, it is nice and free. Another good thing you can also do when when you have the wheel off the ground and it's free is you can check it for play in the bearing, and I'll show you when you put your wheel. And you can grip it like this, and you can feel if there's any movement in the bearing, and it's obviously pushing it and pulling it with the other hand. It feels like there may be a bit of play in this bearing on my van, because there's a bit of movement. You can move it sideways or up and down or sideways. You can feel that there's a little bit of play in there. And also let me stress that, well, I said you can check the bearing while the wheel's up in the air. This centre nut, which obviously on the other wheel is covered up by a cap, or if it's the same on your van or car or whatever you're doing it on, do not touch this or do not mess with it, because that is obviously what holds the bearing in. So if you're doing the job, this nut, split pin, this does not need to be touched. So otherwise you're going to cause yourself a lot of hassle. Obviously with the adjustment underneath the van, this can be used as a general guide for drum brakes, but the adjustment will be roughly the same on most vans. It may be different on cars, but there will be an adjuster to let off your handbrake if you're doing this on a car. You'll just have to look online and find the manual and find out where the adjuster is basically. But now what we're going to do is we're going to take the wheel off. Okay. It's pretty boring, to be fair. we go. There we are, that's the wheel off. And we are down to the drum brake. As you can see, this is the drum, this is the cover, this is what will be taken off. In this hole here, there should be a bolt, but obviously the shithouse whoever owned this van before me, or someone who's serviced it and hasn't put it back in there, doesn't matter, we can just ignore that. And now you will be needing your hammer. So now this is where you'll be needing the shit smacking hammer, because sometimes these drums can be a pain in the ass to get off. What we're actually taking off is this outer cover. This stays put, obviously, and this shaft stays put. As you can see, you have a little lip on the outside, so you want the hammer. Right, so this part we're actually going to take the drum off. As you can see, this is the drum cover, this is what's coming off. This and the shaft stays there. There's a lip on the edge where you can get, for example, a lever bar in, so we're going to want our shit smacking hammer, a lever bar of some kind. And now most of the time when they haven't been taken off for a while, they can be seized on there, they can be quite difficult to get off. Sometimes it can actually be loose and you can be lucky. This one feels like it's not going to be too much of a problem because it's got movement in it, but I'll show you the procedure of how I've found to get these. Right, so what you're going to want to do, you've got your hammer, you're going to want to hit it, on the side of the drum, and obviously up here, so you're going to want to hit it on the side. You're going to get your lever bar, so you're going to want to be putting the lever bar in there, for example, so you can get some grip. You can put force on the drum. So put force on the drum on one side, hit it on the other side with the hammer. As you can see, it starts to move. Once you've got it loosened and you've got one side that's started to come off, then you can grip it with your hand and hit it on the other side of the drum. Just generally give it a good shit smacking. Now it should be loose enough for me to pull it off. There we go. Basically what we're going to want to focus our attention on is this, which is the adjuster, which obviously retracts and pushes out these two shoes here, which is how the drum brake works. It pushes these shoes against the outer bit of the cover of the drum. So as you can see in this one, it wasn't too hard to get the cover off, and what we really want to do is move the adjuster, or obviously move the adjuster so it's pushing the shoes out, until when you put the drum cover back on, it shouldn't be too hard to put it back on, but it should just be so there's a bit of resistance when you're putting it back on, and that'll be the correct amount of adjustment. And I'm going to do that now. The thing is, on a lot of cars and vans, you can get to this adjuster for a hole in the back plate behind there, but on this LDV, and obviously in all their genius, you can't. I don't think you can actually get to it, because if you look, there is no holes, or there's holes but they're in the wrong place. So a lot of the time you can adjust it with the drum cover still on, but if you have a van like this or a car like this, then you can't, unfortunately. So you can see on this, I have actually changed the shoes recently, but obviously I've taken it for MOT and it failed on the brakes, and I've adjusted the brakes and put new shoes in and it still failed. Ow! Which is a bit of a pain in the ass, and that's the whole reason why I'm doing this again, is adjust it up. As you can see, this is the old shoe. As you can see, it's got cracks in it. It's probably been on there for God knows how many years, whereas obviously they're nice, new and fresh. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier about the adjuster, it moves one way to retract the drum brakes and it moves the other way to push them out. I've adjusted this one out and obviously moved the adjuster. You can use a screwdriver or something similar. And now I'm going to show you that obviously when I put the drum back on, there's a slight bit of resistance, but not enough that I can't get it on. So as I said, I've adjusted this one up. Once you've adjusted it up, obviously this takes the slack, so if there is any slack in there or the pads are slightly worn down, obviously the brakes have further to travel before it reaches the inside of the drum, and this is probably one major thing that will affect the handbrake. Not so much the foot brake, because obviously the piston for the foot brake, as you can see here, extends quite a bit, but obviously they need to be adjusted up just so when you put the drum back on there is a little bit of resistance, as I'll show you. Like you can see, as I put that back on, I can do it by hand, just jiggle it on there and that's on. And obviously there's a little bit of resistance when I put it back on, but there shouldn't be so much that it's hard or you have to use the hammer. If you've adjusted it out that much, there's too much, and obviously the shoes will bind, and that's not good. So as I say, you just want to make sure that there's a bit of resistance, but you can push it back on. So after that, you need to get the wheel lined back up. Obviously you've got the holes, and you've got the small hole where the small bolt should go. Should have done that first, really. Go. Right, so we'll line it up. Most of the videos I've seen on YouTube have been the ones with the studs out instead of the bolts in. Obviously those ones are usually can be a lot easier to actually get the covers off than this type. Yeah, well, I've found in my experience at least. Then, so that's almost lined up now, so get something and we can just convince that to line back up properly. There we go, that's lined up now. So that's that one done. Let's still see the adjustment done, and if you really wanted to, while you're in there, you could clean the inside of the drum. I've already done that using something like not very strong, or even a spray kitchen soap or something. Wash off the shoes and wash off the inside of the drum. I've already done that because I've recently had this off. Or if it doesn't look too dirty, it's not too bad. The main thing is taking the adjustment up. So this wheel is now done. And obviously you would rinse and repeat for the other side. And I am going to bleed them up today. That will be in a different video, so if you want to see how to do that, check out the other video. Thank you. So now we're going to put the wheel back on. So you have to make sure you line up the holes correctly. There we go. Can be a bit of a pain because obviously the wheel moves, the hub will also move with the wheel. So yep, and wheels are lined. Put your bolts or your nuts, depending on obviously if you have a stud or a bolted car or van, back in. I usually screw them in a few threads with my hand. The old ratchet. Just get them spin up. There we go, that's the wheel back on. You just need to give it a hand tighten, and then we can obviously release the jack and tighten it up properly. Right, so as you can see, I've just done this wheel. This has all been done, put back on. As you see, that's the bolt that wasn't on the other side. My nice really brake dusty finger there. This one did need adjusting up because this is the one that was causing the trouble, because on the MOT it came up as imbalanced. So the wheel on the other side was adjusted out further than this one. So that one was breaking harder than this wheel. So obviously, so I've adjusted this one up now. The adjuster I showed you earlier, obviously you wound that out so the shoes have been expanded out, and then obviously push the hub back on, and now this should be the same as the wheel on the other side. And what we need to do now is what I showed you earlier with the handbrake adjustment. We need to start adjusting the handbrake back up. We can go back underneath the van for this, what I showed you earlier with your 13mm spanner, and we can start adjusting it up again until this doesn't move freely by hand. So as you can feel at the moment, you can move it nice and freely by hand, it's all good. And so what we can do, looking at it from the other side this time, pretty self-explanatory. We just, obviously where we hadn't done that earlier, we just need to start doing it back up again. So get this bloody spring thing out of the way, fucking pain in the arse. As you can see, now I've done that up a bit, it's getting harder to turn. It's still pretty free, so that should be okay, as it is now. As you get, may just back it off ever so slightly, just to give it a bit more free turn. There we go, so I've come to the point now where it started to just bite in. I've gone back underneath and I've just slackened off a little bit, so it's still nice and free. But if we were to turn it, say another nut tight turn, obviously then you'd start to feel it, and that's the perfect point. You don't want the brakes binding on obviously when the handbrake's off, because otherwise that'll heat up the drum, causes brake fade, and yeah, just generally not good. So once you've got to that point, obviously you need to do securing that up. There we go. This is obviously what holds that initial nut tight and stops the handbrake from adjustment from obviously moving when it's not supposed to. There we go, as you can see. Now that's secure, that's not going to go anywhere. All good. So now that's done and the handbrake is adjusted, I can whack this wheel back on, and then what I would do is I'm actually going to, obviously off camera, I'm going to turn the van around and then jack up the other side again to make sure that wheel is also free, because as much as this one is all good and adjusted, if we check that one and that one's too tight, or for example then we know that one obviously it's not still quite right, or it's not balanced. So I'm going to put the wheel back on now and turn the van around. I'll be back in a sec. And as you can see, I've turned the van around. This is the other wheel now, and this one's also nice and loose like the other one, so that means that they are balanced and they are correct. So both of them, I've adjusted it up, and both of them are still obviously by hand. This should fix what failed the MOT, where they were in balance, where this one was coming on stronger than the one on the other side. So it's all good. So as I said, we know the wheel on the other side was moving free as I've adjusted the handbrake adjustment underneath the van. And now we've checked this side, and this side's also free. That means that they're balanced up. If we, for example, if I just turned the van around and jacked this wheel up and this wheel was difficult to move, or it was binding on, then I would know that they're still out of balance and there's still adjustments need to be made inside the drum. But you should be able to get it right first time, like I've just done. I was obviously, like I say, you do the adjuster up just until it's just hard to push the drum over, and make sure that once the drum is pushed over, the cover is pushed back over the shoes, that obviously it still can be moved freely. There may be a tiny bit of resistance there, and then you should have both sides balanced up correctly, and yeah, that's what we want. And obviously, as just before I took the vehicle off the jack, I tightened these up with the ratchet, just obviously just by hand, just like oh, how it clicked in, just like that. Tighten it by hand, take it off the jack, which I have already done, and make sure that any wheel you've touched off the jack is obviously done up with the appropriate amount of force. So normally on a bar, you can, or an extension bar, you can pull on it hard, or you can obviously step. If you've got a big extension bar, you can step on it, make sure it's done up. So basically just make sure that the wheels that you have touched, you have, once the vehicle's back down on the ground, make sure that you've obviously done them up all nice and tight to avoid any accidents or anything like that. Yep, and that's all. So now you should have nicely tuned up and balanced back drum brakes. So hope this helps people out, and if you like it, subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And obviously if I get enough views or people asking for it, then I'll probably do a video too, how to change the actual back shoes as well. So thanks for watching, have a good day, bye.